Hey, this is Chris Darby, and you're listening to the Chicago Singer-Songwriter Podcast with your host, Chris Dever.
Hey, this is Chris Dever, and I'm here with Chris Darby in my place in Pilsen. So you'll hear the L train rolling by every couple minutes. That's what that rumble in the background is. Chris, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Good. So a little disclaimer before we start. This is the Chicago Singer-Songwriter Podcast, but you are not currently a Chicago resident.
That's correct.
Where are you living right now?
I'm living in southern Missouri in this little cabin that I built with my dad a few years ago. But I still feel like Chicago is home to me, even though I don't actually live here.
Well, you've certainly made a huge impact on the city and the singer-songwriter scene. I met you at
Independent Chicago Songwriter Festival.
There you go. It's a mouthful of a name, but it was a heck of a fun time. How did you get started doing that?
Long process. I used to book shows in my house, in my apartment, with my roommate Philip. We would do like 4 shows a year, just kind of private events.
And where was your apartment at?
Over in Humboldt Park. Back when it was dangerous to live. Not really. Pretty close to the actual park itself, on this street called Francisco and Armitage. Pretty close to California. So we would book like 4, I think the rule was 4 musicians per night. And then just kind of went out to, because we had been playing around for a few months. We moved to Chicago to play music from Missouri. And we've been playing around, kind of noticed that there wasn't a whole lot of camaraderie in the singer-songwriter scene at that time. And maybe it was just the groups we were exposed to or whatever, but we wanted to kind of make a community atmosphere. We figured that, couldn't really do that yet in public venues, so we would just invite people to our house. And so kind of sprung out of that. We did that for a few years, and then I sort of took a break from music and all things Chicago. In 2007, I went to hike the Appalachian Trail, and just kind of thought about a lot of things in life. And I came back in late 2008. I wasn't hiking the whole time, but I did some other things after that.
Did you do the whole trail?
Yeah, Georgia to Maine.
Wow.
Took almost 6 months. And so when I came back to Chicago in late 2008, then we did a few house shows, not to the extent, but then I looked around for a public venue as well, and did our first ones at Phyllis's Musical Inn down the street from where we ultimately ended the festival, Division and Wood, and then did that there for a few years, and then started looking around for other venues, tried a few out, and then the last place was Jerry's, which is where we held 3 of the 5 festivals, and just did several showcases for about 3 years at Jerry's.
Yeah, I gotta say, I was really impressed with the lineup at Jerry's. A lot of the people, I came into it when I was just sort of getting back into music. I just started writing again, and
I think the first time I met you was when Max the Fox played,
yeah,
right?
so it was the one prior to that.
Yeah, so the winter showcase.
Yeah, and I went, and all the musicians that I saw that night, I still remember it was Duck and Goose, Rebecca Jasso, mm-hmm. Elizabeth Slavira.
Stedman. No.
She's since married.
Right.
Which is weird that I know that. Facebook's a creepy thing.
Yeah.
I came to see my friends play and was just blown away by everybody else there. I was like, okay, this is definitely something I want to check out. Mm-hmm. And then I picked up the 7-inch from you, mm-hmm. and so we kind of chatted a little bit, and you found me on Facebook, and I'd been posting songs online. So when the festival came along, you had this thing where you had a new artist thing going on.
Artist feature.
And
one,
so I
one
got
song
to play
in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. It was scary as shit. Because there was no warm up time. It was you go up there and you just had to have it. And so it was scary. But I remember not only the artists I saw that night, but then going and looking up everybody else that played that particular festival, and kind of following them on Facebook, like these are legit musicians. This isn't just your hobbyists and your weekend warriors. Like these are people that are making money playing music, that have followings and are really making waves. Like how do you find people like that?
12 years of connecting with people, musicians around the country, traveling around. It's I don't know if there's a way to explain it concisely, but just playing around a lot and meeting people, not being a dick, so that people will want to come play your shows. I don't know. So many connections.
And when you go out and to use like an industry term, network, are you passing out business cards to people, or are people writing down your phone number? Like how are you making that connection where you can then reach back out to people later?
I think now it's all social media. That's how you connect now. Before I would notice people that I liked a lot and then talk to them, get a business card or something. Maybe they'd have, just find out their email basically. And then if I wanted them to play a show, I'd ask them that way. So a lot of times I would see somebody and they might not exactly know who I am, but then I'd explain the showcase thing, and most of the time people would say yes. And if they ever said no, it was generally because they had another commitment or something, which is, I don't know. I'm always a little critical of myself, and so it's difficult. It was difficult at that time to imagine people like wanting to play something that I arranged, because I'm just a guy setting up a show. It's not like, I don't know. I didn't feel like it was that special, but it turned out that it was, because one of my rules was that, or I had 3 or 4 rules, and things like, come for the whole night, listen to everybody play, be respectful, that kind of stuff. And just engage with the community around you, kind of thing. And that set of rules was kind of enough to make those showcases more special than maybe another one would have been.
And coming from somebody else, that might have come off as like a dick thing to do, but you've just got this demeanor, like this genuine demeanor about you, that it just kind of works. And you could tell, this year was the last year that you were doing it, and it was sort of a farewell, at least for now. And everybody that was up there, you could tell by the stories they told and how much they appreciated the festival, that you had an impact just as much as the event itself. They appreciated you as sort of the personality behind it. So, well, Chicago thanks you.
Thank you. It's hard to stay humble. I don't know. It is a weird thing, because I both like to avoid the spotlight, but I do this thing that puts me in the spotlight, not just with the festival and the showcases, but just playing music in general. You're on stage in front of dozens of people at least.
Sure. Commanding their attention.
But, the spotlight's on you, so I don't know. I feel, sometimes I just want to run away from everything and not be a public figure, but then there's this other drive that says that that's what I need to do as well. So
having a cabin in the middle of the woods kind of...
Yeah, that's where I go.
gives you that outlet.
Yep.
And it's literally, it's a cabin in the middle of the woods. It's not like a cottage on a cute vacation neighborhood. It's a cabin in the woods.
Yeah. There's some neighbors on the same road, but it's pretty sparse out there. Yeah. The nearest town is 10 miles away.
And what do you do out there?
Write music, play music, read books. I do work around the property there. My parents own the property, so it's kind of like a work for stay exchange, to some degree. So
nice. And the album that you released most recently, Cabin Songs, that was all written at the cabin?
It was all recorded there. A lot of it was written there. It came out of ideas that had been forming and lyrics I'd been writing for about 4 years. And then I finally just sat down and put it all together. So most of the songs were completed there, but not necessarily started there.
Would you say that your songwriting changed drastically when you left the city and moved out to the middle of nowhere?
Not drastically. I don't feel like changes come. I mean, songwriting comes immediately to me. So, whatever changes are existing are ongoing, and I'll look back maybe in a couple of years and figure out what they are. But I don't think I didn't suddenly start writing about bluebirds and and deer that I see out the window or something like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that was kind of my feeling too. I've been listening to the Them Down Kids, which was Chris's old band, like that stuff there, and it's very similar lyrically and structurally to like the stuff that you're still doing solo. I just wasn't sure if you felt that there was a big change, but it's all coming from you. And
yeah, and Them Damn Kids was the project of myself and my friend Philip. We were the principal songwriters, and then we kind of shaped the direction of the band, and then it was a rotating lineup of people. There's kind of three different distinct generations within Them Damn Kids as far as people that would normally play with us, but it was pretty much open to whoever was available and we wanted to work with.
And that was kind of what you did with the Cabin Songs album as well, right?
Yeah, so that was a lot of friends.
Available.
So my friend Aaron lives in California, and then my friend Justin lives in Aurora. James lives in San Diego. Hope I'm not forgetting anyone. Oh, Philip, of course, my old bandmate. He played the bass on it as well.
And explain the process of recording that album.
It was one of the first times that I've been very structured, or maybe the first time I've been structured as a musician to accomplish something. And I didn't know the period of time, but I wanted to get it done in a relatively short period of time. So I had a schedule. Like I'd wake up at 8 a.m., get to work by 9, work for at least 4 hours a day, sometimes longer, sometimes full days. And then put down the guitar and vocals. When I got... Originally I had 50 songs that I was recording for the project.
Jesus. And
it was going to be a 4-volume set. I was going to release it over the course of a year to kind of correspond with the seasons. And after a while that was scrapped to 3 albums, and then 2, and then 1. And really I'm happy with how it all turned out. I wouldn't have wanted to release all 50 of those songs, especially in the way that they came out. They were the ones that got released were the best of the compilation, and it made for a good album.
And so what happens to the other 40-ish songs?
A few of them will go on the next record that I'm recording this weekend, and then some might end up on future records, and a couple of them were old songs I wanted to redo anyway, so those might just stay in the past. And then some of them, I think, should just be demos. So
B-sides to be released later.
Upon the event of my death, 10 years after.
And you released this one on vinyl. That was the first LP you released on vinyl?
Mm-hmm.
How was that process?
Slow and painstaking, because vinyl is popular right now, and the companies can't keep up with the demand. And so when I released 7 inches before, it was 4 to 6 weeks from the time I sent the stuff in to the time I got the records back. And now that time has increased to 4 to 6 months.
Wow.
Before you can get your vinyls back. And I didn't know this because when I looked at it in the spring, when I was thinking about doing it on a vinyl, it still said like 6 weeks, expect turnaround time. And then when it came time to order the vinyl, it was suddenly 4 months. And so, the company I did it through they made several mistakes, and so I had to keep shipping stuff back, and they corrected everything, and it was fine. But it was definitely the most frustrated I've ever been.
Did you mention at the time that your album got pushed back because it was the same plant that was doing Jack White's album? Yeah,
so Jack White had a huge year for vinyl last year. I think the biggest selling vinyl, maybe, I don't know,
I mean, it was definitely of the year.
Yeah, I think since Pearl Jam, sometime in the 90s, it's been the biggest selling vinyl. And it's a vinyl that has like all these crazy features that I'm sure are so annoying to have to deal with if you're producing them. It's a vinyl at 3 different speeds, so you can play it at 78, 45, and 33, depending on which songs you're playing on the vinyl. And then the intro has 2 different speeds, depending on where the needle drops. One plays at 45 and one plays at 33, not different speeds, different intros. So one's an acoustic intro and one's an electric intro, and then they converge like after a minute or 2 into the song. And the one side plays backwards, so you've started in the middle and it goes out.
Wow. So producing that had to be a nightmare to some
yeah, so I mean, sometimes when you go with the big guys, their biggest clients are going to push the little guys like me to the back of the pack. So I'm sure that had something to do with it, but also vinyl is very popular right now, and so it's not just me, it's also probably 6,000 other people that needed their vinyls last summer.
Yeah, and you're seeing a lot of articles about that too, because nobody wants to spend the money to build new vinyl houses because nobody knows how long this boom's going to last.
Right.
So you don't want to invest in the infrastructure and the equipment, all that, just to have it die out and you're left with all this equipment. So it might be a problem for at least as long as vinyl's popular.
Yeah.
Were you happy with how it turned out though? Ultimately?
Yeah, I'm pleased with the results. It can be a tricky thing because it's a pretty precise process, I guess. I don't know the technical stuff, but from what I've been told, it's in order to get, which never makes sense to me, how you can get a digital thing onto a physical record wax cylinder. But yeah, I guess it's a pretty tricky thing, so I was pretty pleased with it, with
Nice.
how it sounds. And I don't know, I'm not one of the people that knows the difference between how it sounds on vinyl and how it sounds on CD or MP3. So.
I'm not convinced that anybody is that kind of person. I think it's just one of those things that we tell each other to. It's one of the, I can hear the reverb trails on this track, and it's not here on this version.
I know some people have finer ears than I do, and that's why I don't mix my own records. Not to mention the fact that I'm too attached to it, and that's something I noticed when I had the first band album that we did. That was actually an album. We had it mastered, and then I realized that I can't hear bass very well, and so a lot of the bass in the way that I mixed it was too high, just barely. So that record has some bass parts that are a little too high, but also if someone else was mixing it, it would have been mixed more properly.
Yeah, I feel the same way. The most recent project I did too was the first thing that I recorded that I didn't mix.
Mm-hmm.
And just as a performer, it takes so much of a load off when you don't have to like hit record and make sure everything's set right and then run over to the mic. You can just kind of be in the song for the performance.
Yeah.
And then you're not hearing every little tweak and edit in it. You get to hear the finished product and then, listen to it as a listener. I think it's by far a better way to record.
Yeah.
I mean, home recording is fine for like doing demos and stuff, but when it comes to doing something that people are going to hear.
And I've met people that can do it and can pull it off. It's pretty rare that someone has that much objectivity with their own art to be able to create something that everyone can listen to on the same level. But it can be done. I'm just not that person.
But you're working on a new album now.
Yep.
A follow-up, which is really quick. I mean, I just saw you just did a tour for this one.
In November, December of 2014.
And already you got to get something else out. Is it just that you have that much material that you have to release now, or are you always that quick to release new material?
I think I have a larger load now than usual because of the last project that so many songs got scrapped from. So there's some basis for stuff. But right now I have 2 albums written and 1 almost written. So I'm not where I want to be in terms of what's recorded. So if I had my way, I would be recording stuff. I would record all 3 of those this year, but
So
I don't have the
after this
money
one-
to do that, or mainly just the money.
So after this one, you're going to tour just as quickly and then turn around and start recording just as quickly? Is that the plan?
It'll probably be a little longer because the songs on this next record are a little more universally appealing, and So I think I'll do like a short tour this fall, kind of like a soft release, and then I'll tour most of next year on just getting the word out about it.
Let's get a little taste of what's going to be on this new album. The first song you're going to play for us tonight is called Don't Look Back.
Don't be afraid of what you will find, inside and outside, up on the mountaintop, down in the diamond mine. Don't be afraid to search out all the ends of the earth. Your dreams are much bigger and brighter and more wonderful than you give them credit for. Don't be afraid. Be yourself. Be alone. Wander around, forgetting exactly where you are. Don't be alarmed when everything falls apart, when those you love run away, vanish or fade in the dark. It happens. If you know who you are, nothing will harm you, and no one can stop you from dreaming or living out all your beautiful dreams. If you know what you are, nothing will hurt you. Even the things that make you cry will only add fuel to your heart. So go, love and be loved, feel and be felt, fashion an amulet around your blood, and go, love and be loved, find and be found, and don't ever look back. Don't look back. Don't be afraid. Be yourself. Be alone. Wander around, forgetting exactly where you are. Don't be alarmed when everything falls apart, when those you love run away, vanish or fade in the dark. Don't be ashamed when falling down. Just stand up and shout around. Oh, you are now. What are you now? If you know who you are, nothing will harm you. No one can stop you from dreaming or living out all your beautiful dreams. If you know who you are, nothing will hurt you. Even the things that make you cry will only add fuel to your heart. So go, love and be loved, feel and be felt, fashion an amulet around your blood, and go, love and be loved, find and be found, and don't ever look back. Don't look back.
I think this song is the centerpiece for the record. So the record will be called Instructional Songs for Quality Living, and just 10 tracks of gentle advice for living life well. And this was the first song I wrote in that vein, and this song is several years old now. It's actually been recorded a couple of times, but not released yet. So just never felt like it was in the right group of songs to do that. And then I started writing more songs in that vein and came up with these songs. And so this is like the thing that grounds all of them, I think, this song.
When you were playing it, it kind of reminds me of the song Keep Fighting.
Okay.
Them Kids.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a sequel to it. Were you conscious of that at all?
No, I wanted to, this was a song that I wrote in the cabin just when I went back to visit my folks. I was still living in Chicago at that time, and it was Thanksgiving. And I just wanted, originally it was called Song of Thanksgiving. I just wanted to kind of write a song that was just about life, and, you know, it's pretty great to be alive, I guess.
Have you always been such a positive person?
It comes and goes, but I think underlying everything, there's always hard times in anybody's life. No matter who you are, the scales are different, but there's always things to go through. But there's more good times than bad, I would say, in most people's lives, and definitely in mine.
It's really cool that you're able to take that, like the silver lining,
mm-hmm.
as it were, and make an album. And, you know, hopefully the song or the album does that job of kind of being the go-to for when people are kind of down.
Mm-hmm.
And
I try to, I wrote a few songs, maybe I wrote half of the songs on this record just kind of sporadically and whenever things would come to me, and then the rest of the songs I wrote for the record kind of continuing in the vein. And I always feel like the best positive songs are songs that don't just say that everything's okay, but sort of recognize that everything's not okay all the time, but it's still okay. And so that's kind of how I try to write my inspirational songs.
Speaking of moving past things and not looking back, you recently had a Kickstarter campaign
mm-hmm.
for this album that didn't work out.
Yeah,
like
it's
you intended.
I pulled the plug on it, and I wasn't really sure why I did it at the time. I had some reasons, but I think after I've reflected on it, it just didn't feel like the right time to do it, if I'm going to do it at all. I sort of rushed in putting everything together about it and just kind of threw a live video up. Didn't really put a lot of effort into the page itself, so I felt like if it was going to get the maximum amount of results to it and make people excited about the record, then I would need to do it over, or just not do a Kickstarter and promote it in a different way.
Because there's a lot of debate over doing Kickstarter to
mm-hmm.
fund an album before it's done. There's a lot of purists that are going, no, tour first, make your money there, build your audience, and then use that money to
mm-hmm.
to record an album. A lot of people feel like Kickstarter's sort of cheating the system and getting the money up front when you don't have a product to deliver and people are putting their faith in you. But you've been around for a while, and a lot of people that are going to support that Kickstarter know sort of what you're going to bring to it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Kickstarter is for the majority of artists a viable way to raise money for an album?
I think it all depends on the person and the project. And I think I have this debate too in my head about whether, because a lot of times it feels like just begging money from family and friends, and I think that's all situational. And I was talking to a friend of mine who just did a crowdfunding campaign to do a startup company, and he didn't quite reach his goal, but he was able to raise enough to like build a small platform. But he was saying, we talked a little bit about it, and then kind of came to the conclusion that it's all in, like, people can, people are smart, they know what's up. And if it's obvious that there's no effort been put into it and you're just asking for money, then it's like begging. But if it's pretty obvious that there's been a ton of effort put into your music and your project and the campaign as well, then it's just a new way of doing business. It's not, or the current way of doing business. And people are pretty much neutral about it. That was sort of from him and from a few other people I talked to, it's just people that aren't musicians and aren't doing crowdfunding campaigns don't really have these discussions, I think.
True.
You know, it's a kind of a spur of the moment thought, like, should I support my friend here or not, you know?
Yeah.
Looks like he's doing a good job. I like this guy. I should support him.
Some of the giveaways you had, because that's sort of the allure of doing a Kickstarter, is you get something extra for throwing a little bit more money in it. So the lowest tier you had, you got the album, which obviously, you know, that's what you're trying to fund, so that's what you're giving out. But the rest of them almost felt like you were just sort of cleaning house. It was, here's some of the back catalog, give me some, you know, donate a little more and you get a little bit more on my back catalog. And that was the part that surprised me, because for like the Songwriter Festival, for example, you had this great idea where all the artists, you took their pictures and made playing cards out of them with some like, you know, facts about them on the back of them. And it was really creative. And then to see when I saw the post about the Kickstarter, I was like, oh, cool. What kind of like neat creative stuff is going to go along with this album? What sort of like theme is he going to throw into it?
Okay.
So if you do end up going that route again, do you have any ideas for what you might want to do for like bonus giveaways?
That's a good question. I think when I posted that, and as I said, I rushed it, and so it certainly could have been done a lot better. But when I posted it and when I was thinking of the giveaways, I was having this debate about whether or not it was like begging, and so I wanted to kind of phrase it mostly like an order, like a way to order my record, and if you want to order other records as well. And so that's probably where that came from. But I can see what you're saying about that idea as well. But I didn't think about that. So I don't know. I'll get back to you when.
All right, yeah, just something to think about.
I hadn't actually given a lot of thought to it. I had like a lifetime subscription on there, where if you give me your address, I'll just send you anything I ever make. So that's probably the craziest thing I had up there.
It's actually kind of cool. As far as touring goes, you've played venues, you play house shows, you've been all over the country. What are some lessons that you've got from touring? What can you tell people about touring? Either stuff that you do now that you didn't do before, or some like major mistakes that you've made in your past.
Oh man, any more specific criteria? There's so much. I mean, touring is, if you do it often, it's kind of like living.
Well, let's do. What was the best, or what was the worst show you've ever played?
There's a few of them. I always point to the one in Minnesota where we were. It was me and my bandmate Philip, and I think a friend of ours, Rob Reed, was at that show too. So he opened for us and then played a little bit on our set as well. And just one of these things where we took the show because they guaranteed us some money, but we had to play for 3 hours, which isn't always the best thing, but sometimes it works out. But then we get there and nobody's there, but they're paying us money, so we play anyway, and it's just the bartender for the whole time, and he doesn't like us. And then at one point he turns the television on and turns the sound up, and I think it was kind of a coy, or he was trying to get us to stop playing so he wouldn't have to pay us. I think is what was going on, but we weren't going to do that. But so there was that, and then there's been a couple others just similar to that. And there's
really, I mean, is there any way to avoid a show like that? I mean, when you go into a town that you really don't know a lot of people in, and they're gonna pay you, so I mean, it's a stop on the tour that's gonna buy you gas.
Yeah, I think now I kind of know what I'm getting into when I book a show like that. I don't think I've had another show like that since then, so I must have learned something, and maybe subconsciously. But you can pretty much tell what you're getting into, or I can, just kind of by tone of email, whether they're gonna, what the setup's gonna be. If it seems like there's some thought or effort put into their music program, then it's probably gonna be at least an okay experience. If it seems like you've just sent them an email and they've responded to you and said, okay, no details about anything, then probably gonna not be, you can't always tell, but that's generally gonna be a bad experience. But then again, sometimes I've had great experiences with things that I thought were going to be horrible.
It's really just rolling the dice.
Kind of, but generally my intuition is correct. So when a good show happens out of something that I feel like is going to be a bad show, then that's a surprise.
So you find yourself having more good shows nowadays than bad shows?
Yeah, for sure. And even like the worst shows, even the worst show I play now is so much better than the best show I played 10 years ago. Maybe that's not true, but I mean, just in terms of like performance and confidence and that kind of thing, those elements, I can win people over a lot better or a lot easier now than I could a while ago.
Do you enjoy writing more or performing live more?
It depends on the performance, I think. So if it's a good performance and everyone's receptive towards it and people are buying my music, then I think that's what I enjoy the most. Writing can be really frustrating sometimes, just because I can't have any stray words in my songs. They have to be perfect in whatever I view that to be in my song.
Do you do a lot of editing with your songs? You go back and...
Yeah, and even sometimes for a year or so after. That's why sometimes I'll have written songs years ago and not have recorded them, because I've made those mistakes already and I don't want to put in words or phrases that I'm going to regret in 10 years. I want to always listen to my music and enjoy it.
Do you find yourself singing your own songs in your head quite a bit?
Yeah, so that's the thing that'll happen, my self-editing process. After it's been done on paper, then if there's phrases that are still bothering me, those will keep repeating in my head until I can get something that I'm okay with.
Well, let's listen to another one of your songs off the new album. This one's called When the Dark Finds the Dawn.
These words from my absolute friend. At the dawning, these words are my famous last ones. These words are my children. I'll tend them uncovered like gardens grown in the sun. Still I come to you, brothers and sisters, and mothers and fathers, eldest loved ones. I come to you pleading, though I know not the reason. We were brought here all deaf, blind and dumb. And these times are a constant reminder to wonder, to learn of our ancient regret. Embedded in tragedy, the soul of our country redacted from history's text. Still I ask you to open your eyes, ears uncovered, keep your thoughts to yourself. For the more you try speaking, the less you can listen, the less you will see where you are. And these days will be famous. All who come after these days will be known for all time. The question remaining is, what will they be known for, and who will remember them? Still we all hold our cards tight, afraid of the answer, afraid of a change of plan. Let us be honest, this course will destroy us if we do not find new direction. For these thoughts are a worry, they're just momentarily. These thoughts will soon lead us to shore. These thoughts are our children, the song of our garden, the hope of a new world restored. Still I come to you, brothers and sisters, and mothers and fathers, and eldest loved ones. I come to you pleading to discover the reason your sleep is untroubled and calm. I come to you pleading, unfettered but bleeding. I will sleep when the dark finds the dawn.
Do you write your songs to anyone in particular? It seems like the majority of the stuff you write, you're addressing somebody. There's a lot of yous and you're speaking to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a certain person or people in your life that you're writing these to that you're trying to inspire, or is it mostly self-reflection?
I think it depends on the song a lot. This one is very general. The When the Dark Finds the Dawn song is kind of generally to whoever's listening. But the Cabin Songs, a lot of that was written with particular people or events in mind. In general, that's not how I write songs, though. I write songs with a kind of mix of different people and experiences. But I find it easiest to convey those by presenting specific imagery, specific people or whatnot. But I avoid names for that reason, because even if it's about someone in particular, number one, they don't always need to know that, and number two, I want the listener to be able to get as much out of it as the person that I'm writing it for.
Do you think it's true that when you write more generally, you find a broader audience, or do you think that dilutes your message?
I'll let you know when I find a broad audience.
All right, fair. What does that phrase mean, when the dark finds the dawn?
Getting through the night. Basically, the dark is always, or it's always darkest right before the dawn. There's that old saying. And so sometimes it can seem like the night can go on forever, especially if you're an insomniac, or if there's no one around, to talk to or whatever. It seems like the night just goes on forever, but eventually there's light at the end of the tunnel, and that even in the most hopeless of situations, there's always going to be something that comes out. There's always something to look forward to, and I'll keep working on whatever it is I'm working on until that happens. I won't give up before that.
Such a great message. Like I'm just from the songs that I've heard tonight, I'm really liking the tone of this album.
And I think that's one of the songs I'm really proud of, because the last line is perfect and it sums up the song. And I guess perfection is debatable in art or whatever, but to me, I feel like that line can resonate with an audience, and it sort of brings everything together. And I heard somebody talk, maybe it was Connor Oberst, I'm not sure, but somebody was talking about how you've written a good song when the last line is perfect, when you leave the audience thinking about the song because of the last line. And I feel like that's one of the songs that does that, at least to me. Hopefully it does to other people as well.
It's pretty cool that you've been writing songs for over 10 years now. Is that
Mm-hmm.
fair?
Yeah.
And you can still find little things that impress you about your own songs. It's not just an exercise to get something down on paper that you can then record and then perform.
Mm-hmm.
Have you always been creative? Have you always been a writer?
Yeah, I think to one degree or another. I had journals when I was younger. I used to try to write longer form stories and then short stories, but I was never happy with any of those, and those were all in high school, so I don't know if that really means anything. But when I finally figured out stuff about guitar and writing music, then I figured out that I was most drawn towards really short form, and the song, writing a song gives you the ability of saying things saying a lot of stuff in very compact ways, and that's what I like to do, I guess. And that's how my brain works.
Do you still write prose?
No.
No, it's mainly songwriting though.
Yeah, if I ever, sometimes I'll just write stream of consciousness stuff, but it's nothing that anyone will ever see. And if I have anything to do with it.
Do you have a songwriting method? Is there a certain chair you need to be sitting in, a certain pad of paper that you need to write on, or is it just random? Whenever something pops into your head, you just find something to write it down on?
Yeah, nothing that specific in terms of physical things, places I need to be. But a lot of times when I get inspired to write a song, it's more just being bored with other things. Or bored's a bad word, but just like, I'm a songwriter, I should be writing music. And so I'll sit down, and then it's so easy now with things that you can record with so quickly. I usually just hit record, first I'll come up with some kind of chord progression that I'm happy with, and then just start recording improvised lyrics over that progression.
Oh, interesting.
And then once I find, sometimes I'll do a whole song that way, and then go back and pick out a few lines. But when I find one line that really speaks to me, then I'll base the song off of that and continue to write from there.
I've asked this to most of the people that I've interviewed so far, and you're the first one who I think does music first and then lyrics. I feel like most people, either it comes together or they had the line and they try to fit it into a chord progression later.
Yeah, I think it might just be something to kind of jog my process, because then it's really very rough, the chord progression. It's just an idea to get things started going, because then once I have the idea, then I'll start writing, and then I'll refine it later as far as the music goes for it. But you've heard my songs, they're not the most technical songs in the world in terms of music.
Did you teach yourself how to play guitar, or did you take lessons to learn?
I taught myself. I did one guitar class in college, but I knew most of the stuff that was in that class by the time I took that anyway. But I feel, there's so much more I could know on guitar though.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was a point where I just sort of stopped learning with guitar, and that's not always the happiest idea for me.
What was your method of learning guitar? Was it magazines, books, videos?
So this was in the 90s, so it was a lot of, what was it? I guess initially I had a couple of books, like the Mel Bay guitar books. And then later on, when I discovered the internet, then there was like tabs on there that I'd tried to learn from, like Tesla and Van Halen and these people. And then that was hard. So I stopped doing that. But it's got to be so easy now. Like if you're just starting out, there's everything you could possibly want to know. There's a video of it on YouTube, like how to do it. So.
No, you're working with a group of musicians now. Unlike your last album, where everything was done remotely, everyone's rehearsing, and then you guys are going to go in and record. Are the musicians that you play with kind of on your level musically?
Way above.
Way above? Is that intimidating for you?
No, it's the only reason that it's comfortable, because I'm going to do this live, or attempt it anyway, to do all the songs within a 4-hour period of time. There's more time that we could do, but there's a point where it's diminishing returns, I think, with recording. So hopefully we can get everything done within 2 or 3 takes. But the 2 people I'm working with are Andrew Bemis, who'll be playing fiddle and vocals, and then Charles Murphy, who's in the band Duck and Goose. And he's got an arsenal of stuff that he'll be playing. Just one instrument per song. But not too intimidating. It was at one time, for sure. But now that these people are my friends. And I think I've come to a point where people that I once was intimidated by have said positive things about my songwriting. And so I sort of feel like there's some give and take, and it's not just me like looking up from below.
Well, let's listen to the last song you recorded tonight. This one's called A Day Will Come.
A day will come when you'll bind your life together and wonder if you made the right choice. A day will come when you will not be a stranger to this life and to your voice. A day will come when you will move a mountain, the very one you set out to move. A day will come when peace will be upon us, the answer to unanswered news. The day will come, the day will come when armies cease their endless drone. The day will come, the day will come, and may that day be this one. The day will come when we all are free to be the ones we were made to be. The day will come when shadows flee, when our hearts hear the faint soft plea. The day will come when it matters not the things you have or the place you've got. The day will come, we will agree, peace inside is what we need. The day will come, the day will come, and we are one with the stars and the sun. The day will come, the day will come, and may that day be this one. And may our love fly upon the wind and air, current song, may our dreams take shape this night and fly, fly, fly till the edge of the light. Fly, fly, fly till there's nothing in sight. Fly, fly, fly through the crisp morning air, 'cause you were born to be here. The day will come, the day will come, when we are one with the stars and the sun. The day will come, the day will come, and may that day be this one. May that day be this one.
I guess this is probably one of the most naive songs. Just hoping that we'll all be at peace one day, which probably will never happen. But
Well, that was going to be
can-
my other question. Is I mean, you're writing this album of sort of positive, uplifting songs and happy endings. And do you think ultimately life resolves in a happy place?
I do. Yeah, I think if you look at history, that things are much better than they were. I think I've been reading a couple articles lately about how we're in the most peaceful period in all of history at this moment, and we still see all these things because there's still horrible things happening everywhere. But we're working towards, as a race of people, if we don't destroy ourselves before it happens, we're working towards a place where we can all be, where we are learning things along the way. And I think that's inspiring for me, and it's inspiring enough to still believe that peace is an attainable goal.
Yeah, and it's gonna. I mean, and it comes full circle too, because you get creative people in a peaceful place, and they're gonna create art that then reflects that, which is then going to turn around and take somebody listening to it or seeing it or whatever the medium is, and lift them up, and it just sort of hopefully is this spiral that just kind of uplifts.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I say it may never happen. I'll never see it as far as universal world peace. I don't think that'll happen in my lifetime. And there's so many variables with people that you just never know. But I do think it is attainable for whatever that's worth. Even though it seems so out of our grasp, but it also seems so close.
So we're at sort of the beginning of the year here. You've got an album in the works. You've got a tour shortly after that. Any other big goals for you this year?
It's actually a pretty quiet year for me in terms of music. I mean, a lot of stuff's happening, but the tour is going to be maybe a month, but not like the last tour I did was a show every day for almost 2 months. And that's generally the way that I tour when I do big tours. And so this will be like 20 shows over, maybe like 30 shows over 2 months. And then do the album. But yeah, nothing too big after that. I'm going to go out to Colorado in April and just visit a friend out there for a couple of weeks. But that's not music related. That's hiking.
You have a life
I might
outside
actually
your
shoot a
album.
video out there when I'm out there and make
nice.
use of it that way. But
More puppets this time? Or stuffed animals, was it?
I don't think so. I think they might make an appearance, but it won't be revolved around them.
It's not going to be your gimmick.
They come with me. They sell my merch, but
That's right. You did have them set up on your merch table.
mm-hmm.
So one last question. If you could go back to the Chris Darby that first decided he wanted to start playing music, he's learning guitar chords in his bedroom, he's singing but not well, what advice would you give him?
Well, I would like to be able to bring the songs I have now back to him and start from there. But if I can't do that, I think simplicity. I've come to learn that over time, that being the fastest player or the loudest or whatever, like there doesn't have to be competition but amongst musicians. There doesn't have to be one person that you have to be better than. I think it took a long time for me to learn that, and that's really something that shouldn't exist at all, I think, in your songwriting process. I think there can be people you respect, but in terms of like a top 10 list, like there's no way to quantify whether George Harrison is a better songwriter than Paul McCartney. They're both great songwriters. I don't know. It depends. There's all different kinds of writing music, and I think being okay with that, just being okay with diversity. Try to tell him that.
Do you think Chicago's in a better place as far as community goes than it was when you started booking house shows?
Absolutely. I don't take any credit for that. I don't know how much belongs in my pocket, but there's there's far more songwriter groups and people focused on encouraging community now that I've discovered, you know. And maybe, like I said, maybe I was just seeing the wrong things when I started, and now I'm seeing the right things. But I see much more of it now than I did in 2004. So I feel like the city in general is in a better place in terms of songwriters.
I like it. Would you ever come back? Or are you pretty comfortable out in Missouri?
We'll see. I mean, it's pretty hard to... Everything has its drawbacks and its advantages. Chicago's too busy for me right now, but there may be... I feel like this is the only city I could ever live in. I visited a lot of cities, and this one always felt like home to me, even when I first visited in 1998. It felt like a place I wanted to be, one way or another, even though I didn't have a goal living here then. But I don't get that sense from other cities, so it's possible.
If there's anybody out there that isn't already connected to you, where can they find you online?
Best place is the main website, chrisdarbymusic.com. If you want to just go right to the music, it's chrisdarby.bandcamp.com. BANDCAMP, for anyone who doesn't know that website. And then there's all the other Facebook, and I have a Twitter account that I never use, so that's not the best. But there's stuff on YouTube and those kind of things.
Cool. Thanks for sitting down tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, really looking forward to the new album. Do you have a release date in mind yet?
Not yet. Probably September, maybe August. Late summer, I'd say.
Looking forward to it. Well, thanks so much for sitting down tonight. Keep writing and keep playing, Chicago.